So you want to roll a Pala champion? Sorry, let me start over. So you want to roll a champion? Well, here's what you need to know. Champions are holy or unholy warriors in service of a particular deity. Rather than gaining magic like your cleric brethren, your service to your god grants you a multitude of martial powers that allow you to defend the weak and smite the wicked. Or smite the weak and defend yourself, depending on your alignment. If you unironically listen to Sabaton or have a loose definition of evangelism, then this may just be the class for you. As a paladin champion, damn it, last time, I swear. As a champion, you follow a moral code determined by your alignment and deity of choice. This determines your cause, which grants you a special reaction known as your champion's reaction. Real creative naming sense there, Paisa. Because they're so integral to your playstyle, I'll start with these subclass options before getting into the other random bullshit you get with this class. Starting with the good aligned causes, we have the Paladin Champion! Fuck! Oh no, wait, I got it right that time. Paladins are the bog standard lawful good types who can't lie, cheat, or disrespect authority. They're typically the party nannies, holding the rogue and the bard by the collar every time they try to run off to do hood rat shit with their friends. If someone hits an ally within 15 feet of you, you can mitigate some of the damage while also hitting them back if they're in range. There is a feat that lets you use this ability with a ranged weapon if your party has personal space issues, but considering it doesn't change the initial 15-foot limit and it's also the only ranged champion feat, it's really only useful for the free step action. At level 9, this attack does persistent good damage. And at level 11, it lets everyone in range attack the target as well. If you couldn't tell by my visceral reaction just now, I have some opinions about alignment damage. In short, I fucking hate it. It throws moral ambiguity out the window. You can't have two equally justifiable groups clashing over conflicting ideals in this scenario. No, it's just, is this person quantifiably evil? You have to tell me it affects my damage. And if you happen to be in a game where most of what you fight either isn't explicitly evil or doesn't even have the mental capacity for morality, you're really just a meat shield for the people with non-judgmental damage. Unless you know your campaign is going to feature tons of fiends with weakness to good damage. In which case, you might as well stop worshipping your god, because now you are one. Okay, rant over, next subclass. Where paladins tend to take the Eren Yeager approach, including the part where he gets all genocide-y, redeemers are more akin to your Aangs and Steven universes. They're oath-bound to give even the worst villains a second, or even third, chance to cease their evil ways and return to the side of justice. You may be more familiar with this trope as the guy who makes combat take an extra hour because he really thinks the demon who eats puppies can be talk no jutsu'd into opening an orphanage instead. Your glimpse of redemption gives the target a choice. Continue attacking and suffer the consequences, or stop attacking and reflect on your actions. Those consequences include having the damage reduced and making them enfeebled for a turn. With feats, you can not only add stupefied as an option, but you can also make these conditions last for a full minute. At later levels, this reaction does a little bit of damage back, and can even protect multiple allies at once. The sheer amount of attacks you can avoid from either making an opponent waste an action or just lowering their stats so they're less likely to hit is what makes the Redeemer, in my humble opinion, the best tank in the game. Just don't play it into a party of combat addicts if you plan on going full Paragon. Liberators are what Rand Paul pretends to be, protecting the freedoms of individuals to do anything they want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. They're devoted to going against tyrants and oppressors, the opposite of who Rand Paul actually is. Their reaction lets allies remove CC as well as mitigate damage. Not sure how many monsters even have access to CC, but better to have and not need, right? The target ally can also take a free step action, which I only mention because the feats for this subclass make that step ignore difficult terrain and turn it into a half stride, much less situational. Level 9 tacks on persistent damage, and level 11 lets you give everyone a free step so long as the initial target didn't need to escape. If you want to met out some justice to some slave traders and the isekai protagonists who buy their waifus from them, pick a liberator. We now move on to the evil champion causes, which fascinate me as a concept. The idea of an evil religion feels like an oxymoron to me. Like, how can you serve a being that requires you to be self-serving? Fortunately, for champions at least, it's actually not that deep. You're a dick, your god's a dick, your god helps you be a bigger dick as long as you're a dick to who they say. The first of these dicks is the lawful evil tyrant, which as written is unplayable in a party. Based on these tenets, I don't see how you could be anything other than the undisputed party leader with the rest of your party being your bitches. But given how horny gamers tend to be, maybe they're into that sort of thing, so I'll leave figuring out the party dynamic to you. If an enemy hits you, you can force them to either kneel or take extra damage. There is a feat that lets you turn this into persistent damage, but it doesn't stack with your Exalt ability at level 11. I'll give you 3 guesses what your level 9 and 11 abilities do. Assuming you have enough party members with mommy and or daddy issues to make the tenets a non-issue, you could have a lot of fun with a tyrant. Desecrator is where we get into evil for evil's sake territory, at least as far as the tenets are concerned. Unlike the other revenge-based reactions of evil champions, the Desecrator focuses on protecting itself with damage mitigation, though it still gives a slight damage boost. This resistance can last longer with a feat, scales with your charisma starting at level 9, and applies a penalty to anyone else who attacks you once you hit level 11. With this amount of protection, you're sure to be the last one standing in a brawl. Your teammates included, but fuck those guys, you're evil. And finally, we have the Anti-Paladin. Really? You came up with 100 different ways to say your GM gives you more info for the investigator, but you couldn't come up with anything better than Anti-Paladin? Fuck it, I'll do it for you. These are called Templars now. Sue me. Templars are contractually obligated to go full chaotic stupid. Take whatever you want, kill whoever you want, and hang a big sign on your chest that says, I really should have just played Skyrim. I can only imagine Paizo knew the exact type of player who'd go for this subclass, which is why they did every party forced to play with them a solid by making them kill themselves as quickly as possible. Your reaction lets you take more damage in exchange for dealing some back to whoever hit you. If you know basic math, you know that means you're still closer to death than they are, even if you take the feat to buff the damage. If you somehow haven't managed to piss off your party members too much and they keep your suicidal ass alive until you reach levels 9 and 11, the persistent and AoE damage starts to skew this mutually assured destruction in your favor. Until then, enjoy having your team silently wish you'd picked a barbarian like a normal murder hobo. With that, we've reached the end of the first champion subclass. God, this video is going to be longer than Ron Jeremy's cock, isn't it? In addition to your cause, you also get to choose a divine ally at level 3, granting you one of 3 benefits. For blade allies, this grants your weapon the effect of an extra property rune, which I assume is outside the normal limits for property runes on weapons, so that's pretty neat. The options are a little limited at first, but can be expanded with feats. You still only get one at a time though, so plan ahead. You do get some damage options, but they're either, again, situational or way too late in the game to matter. You're still going to be more of a tank than a DPS, but at least you won't be just a wall for your squishies to stand behind in combat. If you prefer to be a wall for your party, then hoo boy, are you gonna love the shield ally. Not only does this baby make your shield block more damage, but it also makes it harder to break. Evil champions can make their shields hurt people, but good champions can use their shield block on adjacent allies. They can also take some of the allies' damage in their stead, or even combine it with their champion's reaction. Add in the feats that give you extra reactions, and your GM might as well never use melee enemies again. It even comes with a capstone that makes your shield even harder, always count as raised, and repairs itself for free every day. Forget what I said earlier. This is what makes champions the best tanks in the game. But maybe you don't want to be the best tank of the game, or the second best tank of the game with some situational damage. In that case, there's always the Steed Ally option. It grants you an animal companion. Okay. Your feats advance your companion like any other class, and they eventually gain the ability to fly. Cool, I guess? Like, I don't mean to undersell the value of an extra body on the battlefield, but what does an animal companion offer that a champion couldn't do better themselves? Obviously, it's meant to be a mount to fulfill that knight fantasy. So if that's important enough to you that you're willing to read this wall of text to figure out what the actual mechanical benefit of mounted combat is, be my guest. Best I can offer is that riding drakes have the mount trait. Do with that what you will. To round off the video, here's some of that random bullshit I mentioned earlier. Champions are one of the few martial classes that gain focus spells, each champion getting one at the start and having at least 2 by the end. Good champions get lay on hands to heal the living or damage the undead. Feats let you give small buffs to or remove debuffs from whoever you heal. Someone will try to tell you that this means you count as party healer, and that someone should be shoved to the front line and told that preparing the shield spell means they're the tank. Evil champions gain Touch of Corruption, which does the opposite of lay on hands with an added penalty to AC. Cruelty lets you debuff the target to make killing them easier because even evil bastards value efficiency. All champions gain Hero's Defiance to save themselves from dying, but at such a late level that your party probably already has a dozen other ways to do that. Among the other focus spells champions can learn are a bunch that let you put baddies in timeout for being bad, one that can disable enemy healers by turning them into just as big of an asshole as you, and a couple that make that alignment damage of yours actually useful. Would I take any of these over the Divine Ally feats that take up most of the same level slots? Fuck no, I just play a cleric. Finally, if you somehow like having more rules to follow, there are the Oath options. You pick a creature type, or just anyone who happens to be a dick in your vicinity if you're a paladin, and you make it your life's mission to put them next to dodos and How I Met Your Mother fans on the extinct species list. You can take a feat to single out a target of your oath, making it easier for you to hurt them, but also making it easier for everyone else to hurt you. Auras you can gain from later feats give you specific buffs against your chosen creature type, but none of them are really worth writing home about. On second thought, fuck Scalies, dragons deserve to die. And that is everything I have to say about champions. Fuck the other auras, fuck having a second divine ally, that one is pretty nice though. I'm done. If you like a tank with some situational versatility and don't mind either being the babysitter or needing to be babysat, the champion should be right up your alley. Pick a god and start soaking hits like the masochist you are. If this looks ideal to you, go to therapy. Unless you're a girl, in which case my Snapchat is...